Alright, so we're here with Alex D'Amato, SHS alum. Alex, good to see you. How are you?
Good to see you, as always, Harry. I'm doing quite well.
So, Alex, can you explain what you're doing over there in California?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I currently work at SpaceX Technologies in Hawthorne, California.
Short for SpaceX.
Short for SpaceX, yeah, absolutely, which is one of Elon Musk's many adventures into the capitalist world of America. So that's one of SpaceX, Tesla, and as well as Solar City now.
Cool.
Yeah.
Alright, so what do you do over at SpaceX?
So I primarily work on testing the carbon fiber components that go into the Falcon 9 rocket. So that includes parts such as the payload attachment point, fairings, as well as some of the multitude of covers that run along the side of the rocket. And so we test those, proof them for flight, and make sure that everything's going to go smoothly once the rocket actually goes up in the air.
Awesome. So, can you just take me through like day-to-day work for you? Because I understand you have a pretty unique shift.
Yeah, that's definitely true. So my team, my engineering team, is actually part of the production line that is constantly working on pumping out as many rockets as we can, basically. And so everything that we do is basically immediately very hot and needs to go out to a launch facility as fast as possible. And so I am actually part of the second shift that keeps the factory running through the night. So I actually usually start my workday around 3:30 or something like that in the afternoon, and then proceed to work until midnight, technically, sometimes a little bit later if that's what needs to be. But yeah, so generally what happens is we're kind of tied in with the production line on that floor, and so as components are made, such as the bearings that I was mentioning earlier, the second they're done, basically it is handed off to us, and then we have a number of test stands that our team has developed over many years that basically adds the flight loads that has happened to those parts that they will see in the air, and we kind of proof test it ahead of time to make sure that nothing unanticipated will happen during flight.
Okay, good old hammer and nails work.
Basically, yeah, except hydraulic lines, actuators, and strain gauges.
This factory that you work out in Los Angeles, a couple months ago there was a big launch in Los Angeles,
yeah,
and the whole city thought there was an alien invasion or something. Were you there for that?
I actually was, which is actually really funny. Sometimes what happened there is just kind of the effect of the rocket going at high speed through the atmosphere, and so it's actually not a very big deal in the long run, but it was kind of one of those moments where we didn't really anticipate it to happen, so even I kind of walked outside and saw that and was, oh crap, look at that, that's crazy. But it was definitely a really cool experience. We actually took a lot of photos from the factory as well, kind of a time lapse of it as it flew through the sky. Okay. So it was definitely a little startling at first, but the footage of it after is actually really cool to watch.
And that was a rocket that you physically worked on?
Absolutely, yeah. So I've actually been working at SpaceX for about a year and a half now, and so pretty much any launch that comes up anytime soon, I've actually had a hand in for a while, including the Falcon Heavy launch that was a couple months back.
And how does that feel, seeing like one of your own rockets going up?
Utterly terrifying, but also a very proud moment. Every single launch day, you kind of have that little jitters, even though so many have gone so smoothly. Knock on wood a little bit, but even though they've gone so smoothly, it's just kind of one of those moments where, like, you know, you've had your hands on that, and that's kind of your baby a little bit. Like you see that bearing, and you know that flight, and you're like, I had my hands on it. I tested that. I kind of know if there's anything that was a little bit off with that one, and there usually isn't anything. And luckily, again, most of the flights have gone really smoothly this year, so we're nothing but proud.
Awesome. So we're here with Alex D'Amato. He works at SpaceX. Alex, how did you end up at this point in your life? Scituate boy, Northeastern student. How did you end up working for the future of rocket technology?
A combination of just hard work and determination, and also just, to be honest, a little bit of luck. That's part of life. So from the get-go, I always kind of knew that I wanted to do something in the STEM field when I was growing up. Kind of started out with small little things like playing with linking logs and playing with Legos and stuff with my dad, which kind of later evolved into building a treehouse and working with tools and stuff like that. And then ultimately, one thing led to another. You go to school for engineering, you do some internships, and I always was very interested in space stuff. I loved Star Wars when I grew up, still do, obviously. And so, you know, you just kind of see that thing you're passionate about, and you just want to do anything you can to really grab hold of it and make that part of your life as much as possible. And so I just did everything I could every day to, you know, take the right classes, work at the right internships, and meet the right people, and make it work as best you can.
Right, and you mentioned internships. Can you talk about what you did during college and during that time that led you here?
Yeah, absolutely. So I went to Northeastern University in Boston, so I was hesitant to leave Massachusetts even after high school. But so I went to Northeastern University, and my first internship, Northeastern's known for these kind of long-term internships called co-ops there. And so my first one was with Sikorsky Helicopter in Connecticut. And while I was there, I was working on some of the components for Blackhawks, as well as the Seahawks, which is the Navy variant, and some components like that. It was a really great experience. I learned a lot there, but that was kind of my first foray into a more professional engineering experience, I would say. It's kind of your first time where you're no longer just in classes, but you're kind of like, I'm in the real world. I'm working with, like, you know, full-on adults that work on extremely expensive hardware that's really cool. And so I kind of really, like, you know, that first step into aerospace, that first step into the professional world, I learned a lot, and I was really proud of that experience. But I kind of wanted to try something a little bit different for my next co-op, and so I came back to school and I kind of sat down and pondered about where to go next, and I got really lucky. I got another internship at a company called Abiomed here in Massachusetts as well, that works on small intravenous heart pumps that you actually kind of insert through an artery and actually goes into your heart. And so if you have something like a heart attack, it's basically physical therapy for your heart, which is one of the only muscles that doesn't really get a break. And so basically it kind of pumps the blood for you and pushes it through your body, which is a little bit of a, you know, kind of
pretty
gross. It's a good thing to have, absolutely, but it's kind of a, you know, one of those gross medical things. And so I was a little nervous about that, but again, same deal, like one of those cool experiences of, you know, something that not a whole lot of people have the opportunity to work with and experience. And so I, again, extremely grateful, but one of those things where you constantly have to be thinking about, is this what I want to do? Is this where I want to go? And so you need to constantly be self-reflecting, but also striving your best to continue forward and do hard work every day. So I enjoyed my time at Abiomed a lot, which also kind of really, the two different experiences kind of countered each other and kind of gave me a big grasp of what I wanted to do with my life and different paths forward for different types of engineering and different types of products that you can work on, which kind of helped pave my way forward. And so my last co-op at Northeasternship was actually at JPL, NASA in LA.
And that's the Jet Propulsion Laboratory?
Jet Propulsion Laboratory, absolutely. And so some of these things you might have heard of. They're like the Curiosity rover that's currently there, and some of the previous rovers that are going to Mars. And so the project that I was lucky enough to work on was actually some of the testing and development for the 2020 rover that they're currently working on. That is wrapping up fairly soon, actually, if everything continues to go smoothly. Yeah. And so if everything goes well, it will launch in 2020, and we'll have another rover up there, which the main purpose of this one, which is actually really, really cool, is to take soil samples, and then we will recollect them with another rover down the line, and then launch them back to Earth. And so we'll have the first ground samples of Mars back here on Earth that we can test in ground laboratories here, rather than just all the testing being done by the robot, which is a really exciting opportunity and will give us a lot of new insight into the past of what it was like on Mars millions of years ago.
Awesome. It's a lot more in-depth than we've ever really known before.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, so the thing is, like, even though the Curiosity rover and the 2020 rover are extremely large, they're about the size of, like, an SUV. It's very crazy. Like, it's one of those things where you see pictures of it and you don't even realize it, and then you walk up to, like, a mock-up of it at JPL and you're like, oh my god, this thing's huge. And so that's the thing, is even as big as they are, you can only fit so much science instrumentation on the rover, and so having the opportunity to take these samples and bring them back and actually work on them in laboratories here and being able to hold things with your own hands. Robots are great, but the thing is, like, working with your own hands kind of has a different feel to it. You kind of get more oomph out of it, if that's a technical term.
What you're doing now is really, really awesome, and I'm sure there are so many kids in Scituate and Scituate High School kids who dream about doing what you did as a child. Do you have any advice for Scituate High School students or Scituate residents who would like to go into something like that?
Yeah, well, so I think one of the biggest things I would say right off the bat is we are in a ever-growing society that has more and more technology impacting our daily lives. You know, I mean, even when I was in high school, which honestly wasn't even that long ago, cell phones, as we know them now, like the iPhone, that was still pretty new. Like my freshman year, I think the iPhone first came out really in like 2007, 2008, and like I was in middle school back then. And so that's kind of the thing, is like talking to my younger brother and sister, that's something that they almost never anticipated. Like talking to them and like, oh, I have to do the school paper, and you're like, back when I was there, like Wikipedia wasn't even a thing yet. Like we still had to go to the library. Exactly, yeah. And so one of the biggest things is our society is rapidly moving in this direction, and we are outpacing the number of engineers and people in STEM fields that we have. And even if every kid in Scituate went to an engineering school, America would still constantly be looking for more engineers. And so the STEM fields are just absolutely massive and critical as we go forward in this more technological future, I would say. And so yeah, what I would recommend is honestly, like, find your passion. If you're a kid, you know, if you find something like that that really kind of grabs your imagination and really like makes you want to do something extraordinary, you should strive every day to try and make that passion a reality. I forget who said the quote originally, but if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. And that's kind of the thing, you know, working at SpaceX is a fantastic experience. I could not be happier with it, but the thing is, like, you know, even with multiple hours, you know, kind of a longer work week than average, it still is a great experience that I wouldn't trade for the world.
Excellent. What would you say is like your favorite or the most important thing about your job nowadays?
That's a tough call. There's a couple different things that I really enjoy a lot. I think I am in this aerospace industry now, and I see so many other new companies starting up, and I feel that to a certain degree, us becoming a more spacefaring civilization is almost inevitable, because it just captures part of that human imagination, that human desire to go explore and go see things and go learn, and being a part of that generation that's, you know, not necessarily the ones that first paved the way. You know, you have that original space race that like brought us to the moon and everything, but this is kind of the point in time where it's becoming widespread. It's becoming to the point where it's no longer like just a handful of people are doing it. We're kind of rapidly getting ready to approach the point where the average person will soon be able to go out and go explore and go see these things. I think, you know, hopefully if everything, you know, continues as planned, we might be able to, like, you and I might be able to go to the moon by the time we're in our like 60s or something like that, which would be, that's insane. That's incredible. Think about telling, you know, your grandfather that. It's mind-boggling. And so that's probably my favorite part, is being part of something more, something that's kind of civilization defining.
Cool. And can you talk about that a little bit? I know some of the work you do is a little top secret, but basically it's SpaceX's plans for the future and what you guys are pushing forward in these next few years.
Absolutely. Well, so part of it's not even just SpaceX. Part of it's just, you know, initiatives from the government, and part of it's other companies overall. But, you know, we're constantly striving for a more interconnected world, and one of the things that not just SpaceX is talking about, but as well as some other companies such as Facebook and some other ones, Boeing as well, are talking about infrastructure for global internet. We're looking into creating a constellation of satellites that will provide internet anywhere in the world. And so that's kind of one of the things, like, that's a huge like leap forward in development for the entire planet, and that's incredibly exciting. There's so much different stuff going on in different ways to kind of shape our future and impact who we are as a civilization. That is an extremely exciting time to be alive, basically.
And are you allowed to hint on what you're kind of working on right now?
I actually can't talk a ton about too much of it, but we're currently working on developing a new rocket that's kind of going to take the place of the Falcon 9 down the road, which is the Big Falcon rocket, BFR for short. And so this rocket is kind of hopefully going to be one of the first steps into interplanetary colonization. We're looking at, hopefully if everything goes well, using the BFR to start creating moon bases, start creating large, like, kind of convoys where if you get a couple of the BFR capsules together, send them all to Mars at the same time. You have this big convoy with a bunch of people and a bunch of supplies that have been launched ahead of time. And so it's a really exciting time to be a part of the company, and honestly getting to see, again, this first leap into interplanetary species.
Right, and they say like a colony on Mars, you're going to need about 1 million people.
Yeah, it's going to be something
Scituate's
big.
only like 20,000 at max.
Yeah.
Do you think they could make a Scituate on Mars?
I mean, the
It's not
biggest.
a lot of water.
There's not a lot of water, which is exactly where I was going to go. There is a lot of water at the poles, which is kind of was similar to here on Earth. No, I think it is almost. Personally, I believe it is almost our destiny to kind of keep expanding and keep exploring, because there's this great, wide, humongous universe out there. It's kind of silly, foolish to stay here and not take the opportunity to go look at it. And so
scratch the surface.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, like, the solar system alone is absolutely massive, and we think that there is the possibility of life inside our own solar system. And so, like, yeah, I think, could we create a Scituate on Mars? I think we need to find a way to make rivers, and terraforming is an option.
Maybe Europa's a better option.
There's a lot of water on Europa, and it probably might even be drinkable, so.
So now that we've discussed serious stuff, we have some questions from the locals, like I said. So some quick Scituate fast facts.
Oh, no.
This is a controversial one. You might get a little bit of flack for this.
Oh, man.
What is your favorite Scituate beach?
My favorite Scituate beach? Oh, that's a tough call. So this might not be known, but I actually used to lifeguard on the Scituate beaches for about 5 years. And so I've actually experienced a lot of the beaches, the dark side and the light side of them. Peggotty has always been a close favorite to my heart because I grew up right next to it. But I think my answer, without a doubt, has to be, and this isn't a public beach, but the Spit. The Spit has always been my favorite.
So not to work on, but
not to work on,
personal
but
enjoyment.
yeah, exactly. My dog actually recently just passed away a little while ago, but that was his favorite spot, and yeah, you know, it's part of life. He lived a long life, but the thing is that beach is just stunning. It's gorgeous. There's so much sand, and it's just such a great community of people always come there. That's kind of the thing, is like, you know, you've got other people coming down the river and parking their boats there, and you've got people from actually living on Third Cliff kind of sitting on there as well, and everyone kind of just like comes together and creates this like great community there, and it's just such a great spot. The water is such a great temperature, so hands down, it's got to be the Spit. No flag worried about there. That one is known.
There you go. Okay. Maybe a little more controversial. I'm staking up the question, cranking up the heat.
All right.
Favorite
it's
ice
hot
cream
enough.
place in Scituate?
Oh, that's a tough
Hot day, need some ice cream. Where
yeah,
you going?
honestly, I might get ice cream after this. It might have been Wilbur's when I was a little kid up in North Scituate.
The Wilbur Wheels.
I know, yeah.
Thanks.
But I will not lie. As I've grown older and Nona's has come into town, Nona's ice cream is very good, and it's also right around the corner, so I definitely can't complain about that.
Alex D'Amato will be taking his talents to Nona's ice cream. You've heard it here first. Okay.
If you want to hang out, I'll sign some autographs.
And lastly, how about a favorite restaurant?
Favorite restaurant? Oh my gosh. Wow, really getting tough with these. Oh man, I'm not gonna lie. The Wharf's always been a good choice as well, but I might have to go with TK's because the trivia is awesome.
Trivia Thursday nights.
Yeah, there. And the Goldfinger pizza is delicious in my opinion.
Official stamp of approval. SpaceX stamp of approval. Perfect. And do you have any like Scituate memories or teachers that you really valued growing up?
Oh man, actually, I loved Scituate High School. I had a great experience there. I had a couple of teachers that honestly really kind of guided my way and really kind of helped show me the path for what became my life later. I have to give a big shout out to Mr. Colbert. He was my 7th and 8th grade homeroom teacher. Go Team B. I love Mr. Colbert. He was a great guy. He currently has my sister actually as well. Oh, wow. And so that's kind of yeah, exactly, kind of like a funny thing about small towns. Miss Ward was my AP chemistry teacher, and she very much the same way. Bless her heart, she was such a great teacher. AP chemistry was a very small class when I was in it. There was only 6 of us, and so it was very close-knit group, and everything was very like one-on-one as well. And so she did a great job, and that AP chemistry was kind of that final moment where it's like, all right, I'm going to do STEM. I'm going to do something like that when I go to school. And so I got to give a big thanks out to her. And my last one has to be to Miss Lochner. Rest in peace.
Any last words before we let you go get ice cream, Alex?
Oof, stay cool in this weather. Yeah, honestly, my biggest thing has got to be back to the kids. Find your passion. STEM is a huge thing growing in this country. It's always been a big thing, but even when I was a kid, kind of one of those things you're always hesitant, like, well, I don't know if I want to do this homework. I kind of want to go hang out with my friends, but working hard and sticking to what you love honestly creates great things down the path. Gotta be happy with what you do and the path you make in life. So you only live once, right?
Yeah. You're working on that at SpaceX too, right?
That's actually one of the other projects. We're not allowed to talk about that one.
Alex D'Amato, thanks for coming on.
Absolutely, thank you. Great to see you as always.
Scituate TV, Harry Hayes signing off.
That was very informative.